We're talking to Mr. Kevin Frank, who is a reenactor for the 101st Airborne Division. You can see his nice uniform here. And he's going to talk to us about something you don't hear much about with the 101st, and that's the glider troops that took part in Normandy. So, Kevin, what can you tell us about the glider troops of the 101st Airborne Division in Normandy?
Well, airborne is not just paratroopers. Most people, when they think of airborne, they just think of the paratroopers they see in the miniseries. But airborne divisions incorporated both glider troops and paratroopers. In the American concept of airborne operations, the paratroopers would go in first, seize a landing area, seize some objectives with a direct assault. Gliders were then used to bring in extra troops, heavy equipment, to reinforce them so they could fight longer. And particularly that would include artillery, that would include anti-tank guns, include a lot of your medical units, your medical supplies. You had engineers that would come in. And so it was usually a two-stage operation. Paratroopers go in first, then the gliders. Well, the problem in Normandy was, with the D-Day operation, was there just weren't enough gliders. We had 3 airborne divisions. They all wanted gliders for their glider troops. And so they had to prioritize who got the gliders. The 82nd, because they were further inland, got a little bit more priority for their heavy equipment because they were expected to have to hold out a little bit longer. They were expected to be the first to encounter German tanks. So the priority of the 82nd getting their anti-tank guns brought in by glider was a little bit higher. The British, of course, used gliders very famously to seize Pegasus Bridge in a direct assault, which again was a different concept that the British used to send gliders in first and then the paratroopers to reinforce them. So there was just a shortage of gliders. So the 101st, a lot of their glider troops did not get to come in on glider. They actually came in on landing craft across Utah Beach in support of the 4th Infantry Division and the 90th Infantry Division as well. The glider troops that did come in were mostly medical, some anti-aircraft, which were actually anti-tank units, headquarters personnel, some jeeps, and some other heavy supplies to set up, a communications net within the division area. Glider landings were always crash landings, and I would emphasize the word crash over landing, having talked to a number of glider veterans. I've talked to veterans, in fact, who've done both, and I've never met a single one that would want to go up in a glider again. They will jump out of airplanes at 95, but they will not ride in a glider again, because it is definitely a very interesting experience, would be the nice way of putting it. And in Normandy, it was particularly bad because these glider landings were still at night, and also the hedgerows and these fields were very small. And so if you overshot your landing zone, you were going to hit a hedgerow or a stone wall or a house. And so a lot of these gliders were very torn up in the landing. The most famous of these, of course, was the lead glider pilot was tasked with bringing in a jeep that carried the assistant division commander. That glider crashed into a hedgerow. The pilot broke both his arms. The General Pratt, who was in the back with the jeep, broke his neck and was killed. He was the highest ranking American officer killed on D-Day. And he was not killed by enemy fire, he was killed in a glider landing. And that is just the experience that you would have with gliders, is you would have people that would be injured or killed simply by this glider landing. They did bring in troops, they did bring in equipment, and it was used throughout the war with varying degrees of success.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I want to give everybody a shot of your cool uniform. I love those boots. That's really cool. Thank you so much for talking to us.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it very much. And how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for about 6 years.
Right. Well, you do a great job. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Have a good day.
Thank you.